He knows I'm doing a lot. Yeah, just whenever you're ready.
Dude, I feel so much better, but this dry throat of mine. We don't say throat. Throat. I tell you what. Yours is recording?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's just do that. All right. Talk to me a little bit about the city going through some changes and some renovations, and one of the hot topics right now is the Abilene Airport.
Yes.
So, talk to me about your thoughts on that. Beneficial, non-beneficial. What are the benefits if we remodel and reface this airport?
Yeah. So if you really think about it, well, what would we do if we didn't have an airport? You're losing a lot of travel.
That's it.
A lot of travel. So a lot of people that would have had access to Abilene, now they don't.
Right.
And so now you're running the risk of them not having access to Abilene. And I think that's very detrimental to our community. And so that airport was built, I want to say, in 1968. So it's about due for a lot of major improvements and repairs that are coming down. If I know a hot, topic on is the escalator's been down for years now, and people, that's very important for your airport, that people can use that and have that convenience. If you're going to have an airport, you should have a functional airport. And so with those, it's $50 million of grants from the FAA. That won't be available if we pass on this for another couple years. And so if we can acquire those grants, even with, I know nobody likes debt issuance, but in this situation, nobody pays cash for a house.
Right.
So there's smart debt and there's not so smart debt. So this is smart debt.
Okay, talk to me about grants, because there's a lot of people in the city who may not understand, hey, what is a grant to the city? Because the real question people want to ask is coming out of taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
So help the average Joe who's paying taxes, who's go to work, who's working over 40 hours a week or more, and they hear that $50 million and they're like, man, our city can do so much with it. Explain what is that to the average person. Yeah,
so that's federal funding. Okay. So those funds have to be used on an airport. And so it's
So these are funding for an airport.
Yes.
Gotcha. That's coming federally. Makes sense.
Yeah, and so I think it's very important that on the front end of this project, we do value engineering, that we get this at a best cost. We want something beautiful, but we don't want something over the top. You want to be very, mindful of taxpayer dollars here. But they may not use the full 20 million of the debt issuance. But I think it's very, very important because of the benefits, the trajectory of the city of Abilene.
Right.
We need a new airport.
Yeah.
And, if we're going to pour all this money into repairs and maintenance just to keep the kind of same old one, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
The benefits that we will get from this new airport are very, very important. And I will be voting in favor of it, and I hope Abilenians do as well.
Awesome. I'd love to hear that. But let's lean towards the streets of Abilene.
Yeah.
Abilene is a very unique place.
Yes.
And the reason why Abilene is a very unique place is because when we talk about elevation, one city is a little bit higher than the other.
Yes.
Or you can go places that are a little bit higher. Not only that, but heat has a lot to do. Ice, weather.
Yes.
Inclement weather has a lot to do with our streets. So talk to me a little bit about the number one complaint that everybody has.
Yeah. So with street maintenance, nobody likes paying the $8.75.
Right.
But the history of it is that prior councils, and they kicked the can down the road. They didn't maintain them. They kind of put them off. And so now we ended up with a lot of streets that needed a ton of repair all at once. And so I think the street maintenance fee was it's not what everybody wanted, but it's what we needed.
Right.
And sometimes medicine's hard to take.
Right.
But this was the medicine.
But we saw a little bit now on Buffalo Gap.
Yes.
I went on Buffalo Gap maybe earlier this week, and I was surprised I didn't see no cones out.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to wait like 10, 12 minutes just to drive like 5 minutes into Buffalo Gap.
Yeah.
But the end result is necessary because it's the improvement of our streets, our roads, and they still clean up just a little bit, but it looks great.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think could be a plan for Abilene when it comes to our streets? So is it higher taxes, or is it keeping what we have and just being patient? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think with the street maintenance fee has proven that it works.
Okay.
And so all of those funds are like 100% designated from that fee to be invested back in our streets. So until we get to the point where we've done the necessary repairs, updating, that's when we can kind of look back and say, okay, where are we at?
Mm-hmm.
How much is the cost of these projects now? Because that inflation's a real thing. It's changing things, and we need
eggs $16.
I know.
Eggs is $16. It is. It's $16.
Yeah, but street maintenance cannot be stressed enough, and it's worth the investment because when new businesses come in, you need streets, you need utilities, and they need these things to operate well. And until we prioritize these things and make sure that we're being accountable for them and keeping up with them, the street maintenance fee right now I think is the best solution that we currently have. We have a long way to go. I know if you watch the State of Abilene address, they'll show a map of what's currently been done, and a lot has been done. And a lot of work needs to be done. And so I think once we get to that point where we're in a healthy cycle of maintenance and we can project, well, this is what the cost is on yearly basis for these streets, we can maybe tailor the fee or maybe start thinking about other ways that we can maybe fund that. But until we get to that point, I think we're on the right trajectory currently.
Let's go back to water. We talked a little bit about reservoirs and whatnot, and sometimes predicament that we are in West Texas when it comes to water. I know that recently, I want to make sure I quote right, that there was a decision to take fluoride out of water.
Yes.
Talk to me about benefits or pros and cons of that decision.
Yeah, so, I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to dive into all the science, but from my reading and from talking to councilmen, cost benefit analysis, they made the right decision there to just take it out. The risk reward ratio, there was more risk leaving it in than and then just taking it out. It just made sense for them to take it out. Abilene's water is very important. We prioritize water a lot here, and I'm glad to see that they move quickly on that. That's one thing that I'm very, very glad they did. I know one of the controversial kind of aspects of that decision was back in, I believe it was 2000, the Abilene voter voted for that fluoride to be added in. Okay. There's a history of this kind of going back and forth.
Right.
And so some citizens brought up that, well, if we wanted to take it out, they should put it on the bond and vote it to be taken out.
Okay.
Based upon the risk reward, we as a community kind of knew this needs to happen federally. It's probably going to end up happening anyways. And so I think council expediting that was the right thing to do. It just made sense. Why kind of go through all the hoops of that? I think they made the right decision. Gotcha.
All right. So let's talk about you a little bit before we close out.
Okay.
Being a CPA.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Explain to the people, what is that?
To me, it's an exciting job.
Okay.
So I'm a certified public accountant.
Okay.
So I specialize in tax. So you have a few routes you can go. You can go audit, industry, or tax. And so based upon my internship, I immediately knew I was a tax man.
Really?
Like, yes, I knew this job is for me. I haven't worked a day in my life.
Right.
I love what I do.
The rest of us are working.
Yeah.
You're working. I want to get to your mentality. I love that. I love that.
It sounds crazy, but I love the stress of it.
Yeah.
Tax season, your back's against the wall.
Yeah.
People need things.
Right.
And you're the man that can deliver.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You're the person, they got the problem, you got the solution.
Gotcha.
have a complex transaction. They don't understand pieces of it. That's where you come in. You help them understand. Look, this is the cash flow. This is the tax benefit.
Right.
This is what we're working with. And in their overall, maybe estate plan, you can implement strategies that are gonna, help them there. It's multi-layered. It's complicated. I love the complexity of it, and I love the satisfaction that the client gets when they see that you got them the result they were looking for.
You saved them. In other words, you saved them. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
You saved them. Well, awesome. How do you think your expertise being a CPA and your specialty will add to the city council?
Yeah, so a lot of council's decisions, they can be seen through a financial lens, and that's how I see the world.
Right.
I'm very analytical. I love breaking things down, seeing the financial impact of these decisions. Not only do they make a logical sense, but do they make financial sense? Mm-hmm. And dealing with the constraints that council works with, I feel like I'm kind of tailor-made to contribute my skill set on council. I know council has a wonderful, diverse group of people.
Right.
CPA hasn't served on the council in a few decades now. I think it's good to have somebody with financial numbers background on the council to help them say, look, this is my perspective. This is
Mm-hmm.
what the lens I'm looking through. This is the financial impact, kind of stressing that piece. I know council's always, mindful of the budget and what's happening, but having somebody who that's your expertise. I'm counting my internships. I'm on tax season number 8.
Wow.
I've seen a lot of tax returns, a lot of businesses, a lot of different scenarios, and we've worked a lot of strategies.
Yeah.
And so, I know the city's different. It's not a business, different, entity there. But the strategy, the problem solving, all that translates through.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I'm excited about.
I love that last statement you said, problem solving.
Yeah.
That makes you unique because most people run from conflict.
Yeah.
And as a city council member, you are in a position where sometimes you welcome it.
Yeah.
You welcome it. Conflict is part of it. And I think you can disagree without being disagreeable. Hopefully.
Yeah.
People, I'm talking about people in general.
Mm-hmm.
But as a city councilman, there's a lot of people who will just be discontented about things. And from what I'm hearing, your experience is you enjoy the thrill of figuring out, okay, how can I make this work?
Yes. I love talking to people. I genuinely want to understand whether we agree or disagree.
Right.
I want to understand what your viewpoint is because it's important.
Civil disagree.
Yes.
Civil.
Well,
right.
They may have a point.
Right. Okay.
And it is your responsibility to try to discover what that is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also your responsibility to convey what your point is and why.
Yeah.
And that's very, very important because as long as we can convey to each other, this is where we stand.
Right.
That's okay. The disagreement that's a natural part of life. We're a very different people. We're a diverse group of people. We're going to disagree on things, and that is good. It helps us navigate to the best possible decision. It's a battle of ideas.
Right.
And if I can refine my idea down, you can refine yours. We may be able to find something better. Right. And it's not always about, well, I'm staking myself here and you're staking yourself over there.
Right.
It's about getting up. Hey, what is your thinking there? Mm-hmm. Do we need to move? That's an important thing to.
I love the term that we, and especially when it comes to the collaborative piece.
Yes. And
for what I'm hearing you saying is that working as a city councilman is not about. It shouldn't be driven by ego.
No.
Or my personal agenda behind the scenes, but what's best for the city.
Yeah.
And the people that I do serve.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, my man.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it.
Anything else to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, welcome to the couch, man. Thank you. We got to have you back pretty soon.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Blessings.
Thank you. That was awesome. See, Rod, I'm telling you, you need to do a podcast.
I would love to.